Continuing with chapter 9 of Canto 7. The title of this section is Fear and Fearlessness. That was pretty interesting. Like he's a fly and you're shooing the fly or something. Okay. Is there anybody with us that wasn't with us in the late morning, midday session and would like a little review of what happens in the beginning part of chapter 9? Okay. Okay. Chapter 9 comes after chapter 8. And in chapter 8 was the final part of the teachings of Prahlad. And the teachings of Prahlad were so direct and so straight and so blunt to Hiranyakasipu. That was it. He had asked others to kill him, and now he was going to kill him. And then some exchange. Like, you're so powerful. I'm the most powerful person in the universe. The demigods are afraid of me. If I just lift my eyebrow, they tremble. What's he going to do? But you're fearless. And not only you're fearless, I can't do anything to harm you. Then where do you get your strength? From the same place you do, Dad, from Vishnu. Where is Vishnu? I'll finish him. So then he strikes the pillar. Lord Nrsingadev came out of the pillar. Big battle between Lord Nrsingadev and Hiranyakasipu. Guess who won? And he picked him up, placed him in such a manner that he upheld everything that Lord Brahma had given in terms of his benedictions. It can't be killed this way, that way, the other way, the other way, the other way, the other way. And he upheld all of those. And he finished him. And when he finished him, the associates of Hiranyakasipu came rushing at Lord Nrsingadev. That was a mistake. He manifested so many more arms and became even louder and ripped them all to shreds. It's a really very fascinating painting. Some are dangling in the air, and some are being ripped in pieces. And big mess. And then the demigods came forward one by one, offering prayers. The Lord Nrsingadev was still roaring. This is the end of chapter 8, beginning of chapter 9. The demigods were unsuccessful. They asked Lakshmi to come forward. She was afraid. She had never seen this form before and didn't know what to do. Lord Brahma approached. This is chapter 9. Lord Brahma approached Prahlad. He appeared for you because he was so enraged by the behavior of your father. So you go forward. So he went forward, being urged. And then we heard the beginning parts of his prayers. There's another section. Aside from teachings, it's prayers. Of course, there's teachings within his prayers. So within his prayers, he's describing his humility, or there's expressions of humility, and I'm not qualified, and I'm this and that, and the demigod, they're so qualified, and it must be that there's some bhakti that's within me that was given to me by Narada, that somehow, Lord Nrsingadev became calm. Not only he became calm, but Prahlad had prostrated himself before Lord Nrsingadev. He picked him up, placed his paw, his hand, on his head, transformed Prahlad into a state of ecstasy, and began speaking. So that's where we ended. He was saying the nature of service to you, the last verse we discussed. The nature of service to you is that while one is honoring you, they themselves are being decorated, just like, gives the example, when one decorates one's face in a mirror, you can see the reflection of the face in the mirror being decorated, but actually it's your own face that's being decorated. So similarly, by service to you, one is being decorated with nice qualities and nice situation because of service to you. Everything is there. Now that's where we ended. And now this is another section, 5 verses, fear and fearlessness. I don't know if any of you have had the experience of introducing new people, especially Western people, to life in a temple, and on many temple walls there's a painting of Lord Nrsingadev ripping Hiranyakasipu apart, and they stand before this painting and go. Prahlada Maharaj tells a nice story. The first time his mother came, that's what she did. She just did this. She froze in front of a painting of Lord Nrsingadev, the standard paintings on many temple walls. With that. And he just said it as it was, and she looked at him and looked at the painting. And he's a great devotee of Lord Nrsingadev, by the way. So, text 13. There we go. Your appearance in this fearsome form is your pastime for your own pleasure. Such an incarnation is always meant for the protection and improvement of the universe. Now, Prahlad is just a little boy, but he understands about the personality of Godhead very, very well. He understands about the personality of Godhead, and the personality of Godhead understands him. We heard this similar description about Hanuman and Ram, that they understand one another perfectly well. Prabhupada's commentary. Anyone who has been forced by ignorance to enter the material world may be purified of material life if he offers prayers to the Lord and hears the Lord's glories. So that's what we're attempting to do, become a little bit purified. And lots of glories. Lord Nrsingadev he's a pussycat. For the devotee, he's very gentle. And for the demon, he's very intense. Text 14. My dear Lord Nrsingadev, please therefore cease your anger now that my father, the great demon Hiranyakasipu, has been killed, since even saintly persons take pleasure in killing a scorpion or a snake. All the worlds have achieved great satisfaction because of the death of this demon. Here's a little Prabhupada story. Many of you probably heard the Prabhupada story about Bhakti Siddhanta telling the devotees to kill a cobra. Some of you have heard the story, some of you haven't heard the story. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur had made his headquarters at the Chaitanya Gaudiya. It's still the headquarters, the place where he chanted his 3 billion names. It was kind of like you could say a jungle or a forested area, undeveloped area. And he had a little cottage and sat inside this little cottage. And for a period of something like 6+ years, every day, he didn't just chant 16 rounds. He didn't just chant 64 rounds. He chanted 3 times 64 rounds every day for 6 years, every day. We can't imitate. That's the standard of chanting of Haridas Thakur. He demonstrated that he had that capacity. 1 billion names. So it's in that place that the headquarters of Bhakti Siddhanta became eventually established. And part of the structures, of course, there's laws for not-for-profit religious organizations in India, and you can only have a certain number of, whatever it is, bighas of land. So they put a boundary wall up, and one of the buildings was up on the upper floor was his living quarters. And one day Prabhupada was visiting the Chaitanya Gaudiya Math, and he heard a lot of noise. Bengalis making a lot of noise. So he went to see what was going on, and they had sticks, and they were screaming, and there was a cobra. They were afraid of the cobra. So Bhakti Siddhanta, up on the balcony of his quarters, he heard the noise. He went to the balcony, and he said, "Kill it." And Prabhupada was visiting the Gaudiya Math temple at that time, and he was very surprised. The Acharya saying, "Kill the cobra." And then he narrated in one class, later on I read this verse from the Bhagavatam, that I was relieved. The verse says, even saintly persons take pleasure in the killing of a scorpion or a snake. Now, that what's in common between the scorpion and the snake, besides they're deadly, what's common for both of them is even without provocation, they'll strike. And they're lethal. It's not like you have to step on the scorpion or step on the cobra. Without provocation, they'll just come and attack, and whoever's finished. So such creatures, even saintly people, become relieved. So similarly, the death of such a demon as Hiranyakasipu, although it's his father, and he has affection for his father, but he also understands what's going on. He's a scourge of the world, of the universe. And saintly people become very happy. So please be happy because he's dead. And now, since he's dead, you don't need to be angry like this anymore. Now they are all confident of their happiness, and they will always remember your auspicious incarnation in order to be free from fear. Prabhupada's commentary. The devotees can always remember the form of Nrsingadev when they are in danger, and therefore the appearance of Nrsingadev was not at all inauspicious. Now, one of these is going to be this recording. I think it's this one. No, it's the next one. I do not fear your sharp, pinching teeth, your garland of intestines, your mane soaked with blood, or your high wedge-like ears. So when, like a cat, you maybe you've seen cats, when they're ready to pounce on a mouse or something, their ears go up and they stare and just wait for the right moment. They're crouched and ready to jump. So I'm not afraid of that. You're showing these signs. Here's the recording. It goes on for quite some time, by the way. Okay, goes on for a while. This is a recording that temples, I got it from a temple that used this for Lord Nrsingadev drama in their temple. Little sharing. Once upon a time, I wasn't even a devotee yet. I was just visiting a temple in Boston. And one of the things I liked about the Boston temple at that time was the ISKCON Press, before it became the BBT, was known as ISKCON Press, was all in this one building. So there was pujaris, there were cooks, there were Sankirtan devotees, there were pot washers, and there was the press. And one of the part of the press was the artists and the editors, and it was like, just a regular old house. We were all packed up together in this little house. And the first time I visited, it was Lord Nrsingadev's appearance day. And I didn't know that they had a drama, but they had a drama. And Murli was Lord Nrsingadev. But nobody knew that, because we were just visitors, and he was hiding behind a large curtain. So by the sides of the windows, there was a large curtain that went all the way to the ground, that he was hiding behind the curtain. And when it came to slashing the pillar, he was really intense. Have you ever seen paintings of Murli? He has very large eyebrows, and he has very, beady eyes and very, very intense features. And he always played the demon role, because he was he could really let it out. And he came out from behind the curtain and jumped around and grabbed the Lord Nrsingadev and put him over his lap and ripped him apart, and intestines, little green or the red things pulled out of his belly, and and one of these kind of roaring things. That was new. It was like, wow. Okay. So Lord Nrsingadev can be very intense looking, and here his picture's going to get bigger. Whoa. Okay, enough with the visuals. The lion is very fearsome for other animals, but its cubs are not at all afraid of the lion. There's the lion, and the lion with the cub. So similarly, the water of the sea, Prabhupada's purport, is certainly dreadful for all living entities on land, but within the sea, even small fish are unafraid. Why? Because the small fish has taken shelter of the big ocean. It is said that although great elephants are taken away by the flooding waters of the river, the small fish swim opposite the current. So Prahlad is little, but he's unafraid, like the cub or like the little fish, and he recognizes the purpose of his appearance. Therefore, although the Lord sometimes assumes a fierce appearance to kill the Duskritis, the devotees worship him. There's the smashed apart pillar. I am very much afraid of my condition of life within this material world. When will that moment come when you will call me to the shelter of your lotus feet, or to the ultimate goal for liberation from conditional life? Prahlad is such a devotee. I mean, he's revealed it already in the teachings that came before all of this, but he's very one-pointed. He wants the shelter of the lotus feet. What does that mean? It means rendering service. It means hearing. This is another very nice explanation. Shelter of your lotus feet means hearing. So he enjoys hearing of the glories. The Lord's speaking the glories. He enjoys the service of the Lord. And those are things that one does in the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Now, next set of verses. 4 verses. Bhakti carries one beyond the ocean of nescience. And I think these little subtitles are taken from Borjan Prabhu's writings, but I'm not sure. Atheistic self-improvement efforts are ineffective and impermanent. So he's offering prayers, but he's giving teachings for sure. Atheistic self-improvement efforts are ineffective and impermanent. And the world is filled with those things. So many varieties. And some people on board promoting and looking for solutions don't find them. You are transcendental to material qualities. The time element is your representation. None can conquer you. I am being crushed by the wheel of time. Therefore, I surrender fully unto you. Now kindly take me under the protection of your lotus feet. These are Prabhupada's phrases in his commentary. Just a little sharing. As I go through these teachings, it's just like in the back of my mind. When I was visiting in Oswego, which is north of Syracuse, it's a small place, city, but it's a small city. There was a family that had 4 children, and the youngest of the small children came up after the final class that we had, and he just had one question. I couldn't understand what he was asking because he was very soft-spoken, but he was very sincere. So I said, write down your message, send it to me, and I'll send you a reply. So his question was, why is it important? Something to this effect. He recognizes the cry. It's amazing. Okay. Why is it important to give attention to the Supreme and not just get on with life? I was a little, like maybe 6, 7 years old, because he was coming with his parents because his parents had strong interest, and he had an older brother who was like Mr. Philosopher. Just sharing. The first class was like new people. The first class was at RIT. So it was an RIT class, Rochester Institute of Technology. And then there was half the audience was just the local people in Rochester. And they came all the way from Oswego to Rochester to attend the program, which was nice, which showed the parents are interested, and they dragged their 4 kids with them. The older son, the topic was pursuit of happiness, or searching for happiness, searching for happiness. Though, what's real happiness and what's not real happiness, and how do you find real happiness? So his older brother said, why is happiness important? I was very surprised at the question. And I gave a simple answer, and he stopped coming to classes. At the end, to giving out prasadam, he wouldn't take the prasadam. His parents told me later, don't take offense. He's a philosopher. Everything becomes philosophical to him. And, he's influencing his brother and sister, his brothers and sister. What are you going to do when you have a son that's like that? Why is happiness important? Why should you even be concerned about happiness? Wanted a philosophical answer. So then his younger brother wants to know, why is it important to search for the Supreme and just get on with life? So I'm just sharing with you, as I'm going through and listening to Prabhupada's lectures, that question is a question that many people have, and he was addressing the question again. And we're not like doubting the answer, but there's an affinity for just getting on with life. No change. There's kesara sara, and you sprinkle in some Maha Mantra and and some other things, and then life goes on. And that's an extreme, but going in that direction, it's not so uncommon that persons they don't like the unhappiness, but they don't like to change the thing that they're doing. Or another way of saying, we don't like the misery, but we're attached to the sources of misery. And to let go of the sources of misery is too much. So somehow keep the sources of misery and make some happiness happen. It's just a rerun of the same program. It doesn't, so it binds one to birth and death. And why is happiness important? Why not just get on with life? I'm being crushed by the wheel of time, and therefore I surrender fully unto you. Now kindly take me under the protection of your lotus feet. The wheel of time. Has anybody here had some fascination with the topic of time? A few. It's one of the 5 main topics in Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's the one that's spoken about the least, as far as number of verses in Bhagavad Gita about it. At the same time, without time, nothing happens. Time is essential for anything to happen. So what is it? What is this essential thing that's crushing everything that gets in its way? Anyway, so it's a fascinating topic, a really fascinating topic. the teaching for Vaishnavas is we should be careful not to waste time, and careful, and at the contrast, to use time where it's going to lead us to where we want to go. But of course, if you don't know where we want to go is, or you have get on with life as the where you want to go, then time acts differently. Now, what about people? Many of us are busy. Anybody here not busy? Everybody here is busy in a different stage. How about you? Are you busy? Yeah. Sometimes. Many of us find it's really difficult to have the time to do what you know is really important. I'm going to go off on time a little bit, but just because it's a nice topic and it's important to understand what is this thing anyways. In Ishopanishad, Prabhupada writes, which is true, many people, when we invite them to devotional something, they say, I don't have time. And it's true, they don't have time. And then Prabhupada explains in Ishopanishad, the time energy works differently. For persons who are averse to Krishna, they're kept so busy they don't have time. And persons that turn their attention to Krishna, somehow the time energy works differently. I mean, it's not like, snap your fingers and now the time works differently, but there is time. And time doesn't simply crush. Some few weeks ago, there was this is just sharing. It's on topic, but it's a little over there in left field. I was invited to a Zoom call with some number of people, 30, 40, 50 people, I don't know the number, on a Zoom call that were from Tamil-speaking group. You were in the audience.
It was 700 people.
How many?
700.
Really?
It is more public, so it's more than 1,000. 500.
I only saw so many on this Zoom screen. You saw the number at the bottom. Okay, so discussion on chapter 9 Bhagavad Gita. And in 1 hour, cover chapter 9 Bhagavad Gita, and then questions. The questions went on for quite some time. One of the questions was a lady who was a doctor something. Now she spoke English, so we didn't need a translator. And her question, she said, I'm a physician, practicing medical doctor, and I've been doing this for some number of years, and now I have a very clear idea of what my prescribed duty is. It's medical practice. Then a few months ago, I received Bhagavad Gita, and I became very inspired by the message of Bhagavad Gita, but I'm perplexed. How am I going to apply this in my life? Because my prescribed duty takes up my whole day. There's my family and my work, and those are prescribed duties. And so, but I'm very inspired. How do I do it? And I was thinking, I didn't say it, but I was thinking, she's from such a pious place, with credentials of piety, by her manner of speech and so forth. 50 years old, and that's when she reads from South India, and that's when she reads Bhagavad Gita. And it touched her so much that she's like trying to figure out how I'm going to fit this into my busy life. So time. I mean, in many factors, how time is working. But back to Ishopanishad, when one becomes a devotee, somehow the time energy works differently. It doesn't mean, some magic happens. It just means that the time energy, which does what is being described here, doesn't act on the devotee in the same way that it acts on one who is not engaged in devotion to Krishna, or Lord Nrsimhadev, or Lord Ramachandra, or the personality of Godhead. The time energy will work differently. And if with that faith, then there is time, not unlimited. So when busy people know how to manage their time, and they manage their time wisely, and their time management becomes purposeful. Not just I'm attracted to this and I'm not as attracted to that, so I do more of this and less of that. Time is a fascinating topic. And it's a principal energy of Krishna that brings creation into being. It allows things to be maintained, and it brings things to destruction. Everything that has a beginning is brought into being by time, and is destroyed by time, over time. So, very important to understand this is Krishna's way of acting with us, or interacting with us. And we have the opportunity to use our time wisely and take up the opportunities provided to us for making our spiritual connection. So let's go on. Material elevation? Big no. He's speaking to Lord Nrsimhadev, but of course, he's speaking to us, or through the Bhagavatam we're hearing, but this is his conversation, his prayer. My Father, who is so powerful, has now been vanquished by you within a moment. The most powerful person is now gone. All that which he accumulated was just taken away. Look at Bhakti, Mukti, whoop, Siddhi. Wow. Life is temporary. What are you living for? Padma Kara Prasada. There's a nice painting, Lord Nrsimhadev with his hand upon Prahlad's head, offering prayers. Similarly, the so-called material bodies of devotees who fully engage in the devotional service of the Lord, being constantly in the fire of spiritual life, have nothing to do with matter, but are spiritualized. Prabhupada gives the example. No, that's iron cannonballs. Iron cannonballs? That's not Prabhupada's example. I don't know where that one comes from. Iron in touch with fire, yes, it becomes fire. But iron cannonballs. Anyway, Viham has become fire. So the spiritualized body in touch with Krishna through the medium of devotional service becomes spiritualized. So the utilization of things of this world in service to Krishna becomes spiritualized. I mean, just like our assembly here, this is just a home. But when I'm used to our gatherings in this home upstairs in front of the deities, and now we have more people, so everyone's not going to fit up there. But I'm sure from the worship, you in your homes also have a place where you do some worship. When you do some worship, the whole atmosphere becomes spiritualized, it becomes sanctified. Even someplace that's seemingly ordinary. I mean, just a nice example. Some of you have probably been to 22nd Avenue. Remember the first time I went to 26th Avenue? Just walking in the place, you feel something. Anyone's had that experience? Yes. The vibration of the place. When the place was leased again, they had to, the floor was a wreck. So they had to remove this wreck floor and put in a new floor. But the walls are the same walls. And somebody managed, I think it was Dayananda, he managed to save the wood. He kept it in a sacred place because the wood that was there is very special. Anyway, spiritual energy can spiritualize material energy, and then it starts to act as if it's material energy, spiritual energy. I mean, like a gay wick, touching the gay wick, or the fragrance of the flower that's been offered, and anything else you can think of that has, like tadiya. You know the meaning? Tadiya? You've heard the word? Paraphernalia that's used in the worship of the Lord is called tadiya. Just like at the Chicago temple. Have you noticed? Probably some of you noticed. In front of Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra, there's this little something. And I was curious. I'm a curious type of person. What's that? Is that some kind of a Shila? And Shankar Pandit told me it's not. It's Nrsinga Tadiya. He said, what's the history behind it? There was a Nrsinga temple, and this is a piece of stone from the Nrsinga temple. And so it's been worshipped as Nrsinga Tadiya. It's worshipable. They don't do puja, but it's placed on the altar, and it's Tadiya. It's sacred. Or the paraphernalia that's on the altar, the bell that you ring, and the incense holder, and the chamara, and everything. It's Tadiya. It's being used in service to the Supreme Lord, used again and used again and used again. It becomes spiritualized because of its utility in relation to Krishna and his service. I don't know what's going to happen with this, the altar that's there presently for the temple deities and the Shingasan that's there. The Vyasa-san, for Prabhupada. But it's Tadiya. Something needs to be thought about what's going to happen with those items because they're Tadiya. They're sacred. Because of their, like this, iron cannonball has become fire. The impartial and benedictory nature of the Lord. Oh, this is going to be nice. You offer your benedictions according to the level of one's service, exactly as a desire tree delivers fruits according to one's desires and makes no distinction between the higher and the lower. Prahlad is a realized person, and his words are transcendental truth. How to approach and serve the Lord. Your servant Narada Muni kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How could I leave his service? Now, he's not being asked to leave his service, but he's making the statement that he's, as he now has this opportunity to be before the personality guided and offer prayers, very eloquent prayers, in part because the Lord has touched his head, knowing that he wants to offer prayers, so he benedicted him so he could offer very nice prayers. But I'm nowhere without Narada Muni. He instructed me, he accepted me and instructed me. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. Very important message, text 28. And then this section, the Lord is Bhakta Vatsala. Looking around the room to see who might know what Bhakti Vatsal is. Probably lots of you know what Bhakti Vatsal is. Balaram Prasad, what's the meaning of Bhakti Vatsala?
Lord is always capable of protecting.
Yeah, yeah. You paused. I caught you by surprise. I hope you weren't daydreaming or something. Okay, but
Meditating on something.
oh, okay. Sorry about that. Now, the different forms of the Lord exhibit this feature of Bhakti Vatsala in different ways, but it's a feature of the personality of Godhead. There was this discussion yesterday at your home about compassion and mercy and how are these similar. So I found I have this whole presentation has 4 different Sanskrit terms on shades of meaning of different words that are like compassion. But here's another one, Bhakti Vatsala. I sent it to. So here's 29. My Lord, O unlimited reservoir of transcendental qualities, you have killed my father Hiranyakasipu and saved me from his sword. He had said very angrily, if there is any supreme controller other than me, let him save you. I shall now sever your head from your body. Therefore, I think that both in saving me and in killing him, you have acted just to prove true the words of your devotee. There is no other cause. Now, he's his own words too. Printanaya sadhunam vinashaya duskritam, etc. But the words of your devotee. So Prahlad was taught by Narada that the Lord will protect you, and he surely was protected. Narada Muni gave assurance that Prahlad Maharaj would always be saved from the enemy's hands. This is a painting where Narada is stopping the demigods from taking Kayadu away, saying that within her womb is a great soul. Turn her over to me. So here he is instructing Kayadu in transcendental teachings. But he gave this benediction to Prahlad. So Lord Nrsingadeva upholds the words of his devotee, great devotees, like Narada. The killing of Hiranyakasipu and the saving of Prahlad were enacted simultaneously to prove the truthfulness of the Lord's devotee and the fidelity of the Lord himself to his own purpose. The Lord acts only to satisfy the desires of his devotees, otherwise he has nothing to do. So fortunately we have some desires, because otherwise you wouldn't have anything to do. But we have desires, that's for sure. And we just try by bhakti life to redirect those desires to him. We're almost finished with this section. I think I'm going to end when we finish this section. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, since you are under the control of your devotee, this is Bhakti Vatsala, your mercy to people simply follows the mercy of the devotee. You are not merciful to those who do not take shelter of the devotees. I am not an exception. By the request of your devotee, you are merciful to all. That is expressed in this verse. Isn't that nice? Vishwanath Chakravarti. I think you killed my father to make the words of Narada come true. When my mother prayed to Narada, he gave the blessing. Your son will create good fortune. by destroying the demons. I think you protected me since my father, desiring to kill me, said, I will cut off your head, just as you protected me from the snakes and elephants. It was not possible for him to kill me by his hand. You killed him. Though the Lord is equal everywhere, he has the quality of being controlled by his devotee, such as Narada. This is what Prahlad indicates. We're almost done with this section. When he personally does something, it is only to satisfy his devotee, which is similar to the same idea as expressed. He very much favors his devoted servant as Bhaktavatsala. And I think that covers the section. And we're halfway through the chapter. And then after chapter 9 is chapter 10. So I don't think we're going to finish. And chapter 10 is really nice. But so far, there's always been so many questions, which is really nice. I mean, I've had several words of appreciation. Oh, it's nice that you're spending this time in some nice classes and this. And I'll say something back. I really like visiting Naperville because the devotees, it's not just like the numbers, but there's warmth and there's inquisitiveness and yes, probing, thought-provoking kinds of questions. Aside from the question, why not just get on with life? Why worry about this? From his atheist philosopher brother. But at least he's asking instead of not coming. And he took prasadam too. That was a good sign. So I forgot during the midday program to say something I've been asked to say. So and I'll say it now because otherwise I might forget. The new temple. That's the little message. And it wasn't your mother, but I'll let you guess who the person was that asked me a couple times to say something. He gave a number that it's $300,000 in 3 weeks. Now, I don't know what happens if you doesn't have the $300,000. It's not like the temple's not going to open. I don't know how that works. And I don't know if he's listening to this. But once in a lifetime and once in a lifetime and once in a lifetime. But guess what? After this is built, what's going to happen? They're going to take down the front building and there's going to be once in a lifetime for that too. And then there's going to be expand the parking lot. Because there's not sufficient parking. Anyway, let's see what happens. Once in a lifetime. But service like this is for persons who understand the importance of service like this. And you know better than I know, but in this area, there's a look around the room, I see mostly Indian people. Not only, almost, but almost. And there's a lot of Indian people in this area. So it's long overdue to have a temple. And we had a nice little place, and we overgrew the nice little place. That's why we're getting a bigger temple. And it's meant to be. So it's not going to happen unless, well, it will happen by Krishna's mercy. But Krishna's mercy can flow through the Krishna's devotees. And so the way that I understand a little bit about fundraising is there's a few people that give a lot, And there's some people that give in between, and there's a lot of people that give little. And that's how fundraising comes together, generally speaking. So if you don't have to give a lot, to give some, well, you probably already done something. So maybe I'm just speaking to the chorus, but help make it happen. And it's a service that will be for our disciplic succession and giving the message to a lot of people. And fortunately, there are some opportunities here and there that are being expanded where people can be reached outside of going to the temple. But having the temple helps a lot. I'll just another little sharing. When I was in Oswego and Syracuse and Rochester and Ithaca, all those places, because there's a college in all those places, so I did something into the colleges in all those places. The makeup of people who attended was about 95% non-resident Indians, non-resident Indians, 90%, whatever you want to call them, non-Indian people. And there was a sprinkling of Indian people. And one of the ways that they got people together was very creative. I remember having discussions with your mother about this in the past, but venues, and we were thinking more about outreach and less about like building this nice temple. And so there was a program at the YMCA, there was a program at the library, there was a program at a I don't even know how to describe it. It's something connected with the university, but it's way over there, and they're just into preserving care of the land and the animals, and it's like they had stuffed animals all over the place, little foxes, little guys, and looking after nature. I don't know what you call that, but that's what they do there. And that was the venue. It was a really good venue, and all kinds of people came. It was a good turnout. So we should be, this is one of my pet messages, we should be reaching other people besides, the makeup of the people in this room, consciously. You may have to customize and do something that makes that possible, but that's something we should be doing. And then, the Indian community, it's something like what Prabhupada said, Lord Chaitanya said. How many times did he say this one? From those who take their birth in India, they should become Krishna conscious and preach Krishna consciousness all around the world. Verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So here you are in Illinois, and you're from India. So now you're supposed to make Illinois Krishna conscious, not just the Indian people in Illinois Krishna conscious. The temple is a nice place. So these places they don't have temples. They don't have temples. And other places I went, they don't have they presently. But they have following, and have nice kirtan, for the most part. Very nice kirtan, nice prasadam, and the basic, Krishna's message and prasadam and kirtan. So, having done that for some time here in Naperville, now there's a place we can bring people to, and it's going to cost something to establish it. Once it's established, then it's going to be a place to. I was taken through a tour through the place. The kitchen facilities are fantastic. Lots of prasadam distribution is going to go on from that place, I'm sure. And it's going to take people to do it, and some of you may be doing it. Who knows what's going to happen coming up in the future. After once in a lifetime raising the funds, it's once in a lifetime getting that kitchen and prepare prasadam and clean the pots. Once in a lifetime. But an opportunity for service. That's what it is. And, so many of you have already done something, I'm sure. And those of you that have yet to do something, please do something to your capacity. Duty calls, huh? Okay, any discussion? Yes. Hare Krishna, Braj Bhagava. There's a couple of us here.
I think that's two. Anyways, my question is about this slide right here. It says that the concept of Krishna being Bhaktavatsala, but isn't there also another personality trait that he has that's exhibited in the Rasa dance where the gopis become a little proud and he just disappears? And then when they realize their fault, they come back. And so he reappears. And so the idea is that when Krishna does something, he does it for the benefit of the devotee.
Yeah.
And sometimes the word satisfy can have a couple different meanings. Because it's not just what you want. I just want to do this with Krishna. Sometimes he does something differently.
Well, lots of times, not sometimes. That's the difference between us and the personality of Godhead. He's independent and we're dependent. So you're making a comment. Yeah, when he does things that look like, that's not the way it was supposed to be. My plan for happiness looked a little different than that one.
Well, I guess the question is then for us is when that happens and we had this attachment to it being A, not B.
Yeah, then you feel something.
Exactly.
You
How do we
feel frustrated or something, some negative emotion.
Tips on how to deal with that?
How to deal with it? Just turn the channel. We had this discussion yesterday evening. That's quite okay. We can do it again because it's one of those recycled questions. Like this, or like your example, actually. Krishna didn't like pride in the hearts of the gopis, and so Krishna went away, so they would not be proud. But it worked. They're in their feelings of separation from Krishna, they thought of Krishna more intensely than when he was with them. And then he suddenly reappeared. So things may happen when we're going through them that we don't understand what's going on. There's a lot of that. But there's a purpose behind. And the purpose may not be something that we understand right away. But there's a bigger picture going on, and we're in good hands. The Supreme Controller's hands. Even it may be uncomfortable, at least as it's happening. It's very similar to the question yesterday. Maybe you can just listen to it, because I spent quite some time discussing that question. The wording was a little different, but the same question. Anyone else? Yeah.
Maharaj, I recently heard from one of the Madhvacharyas. There is one very good speaker from the Madhva Sampradaya. He was talking about what is Simha means. Why Narasimha? Simha actually means, it's actually said by Madhvacharya, it seems, that Simha means who can tolerate all the mistakes of his devotees. That's why he's called Simha. So in that context, I was thinking about the Bhaktavatsala factor. He is favorable. That means he also tolerates the mistakes of the devotees. How do I link these two? I was just thinking about it.
That was the meditation that you were going
Yeah.
through? The one that I
No,
disturbed?
there's another one. There is the other one which I was meditating. The meditation was yesterday we were thinking about that Hanuman went to his abode is currently he's in Kim Purusha
Kim
Varsha.
Purusha Varsha, yeah.
Prahlad Maharaj is in Hari Varsha.
Hari Varsha, right.
And Dhruva is in his planet, which is
Dhruvaloka.
not Dhruva's planet. But all these great devotees, and in Prahlad Maharaj also explains if take up devotional service, all the 14 generations is liberated. That means they're out of their material world?
No.
Maybe? No. So I was thinking all these three great devotees, they are still in this material world. And what is the purpose of Prahlad Maharaj still in this Hari Varsha, and what is this? What is
To
this?
propagate pure devotional service. To propagate pure devotional service. Because the Lord is very compassionate. That was yesterday's topic. The Lord's very compassionate. And so he wants people to have an opportunity to connect with him. So sometimes he has perfected souls participate in helping people become connected to him because he's compassionate. It's explicitly said like that about Hanuman, but the same principle for Prahlad.
Actually, he is, yes, pure devotion, but the people who are in Kim Purusha Varsha, they will get that pure devotion. How do I understand that person? Because we are in this earth planet, and Prahlad Maharaj is there in his Varsha, Hari Varsha.
But that's not another planet. It's Bhumandala.
Yeah, Bhumandala. What I mean to say, we are in. How is he spreading that devotion service?
By sound vibration and by persons becoming influenced by sound vibration. That's how preaching works. And people may, in course of time move from this Varsha to that Varsha. Why not? Just a detail, but the 14 generations, someone asked Prabhupada, what does that mean? What it means is in their next life, they have the opportunity to engage in devotional service because devotional service is from the liberated platform. The 14 generations means they'll have in their next lifetime the opportunity to engage in devotional service. Doesn't mean if Vaikuntha Vimana descends and takes them to Vaikuntha. That may happen, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. Now back to the other meditation, the meaning of Singha. So the question you want to hear something further about it. Restate succinctly the question again.
The Bhaktavatsala is favorable and is protecting the devotees.
Yeah.
And he also tolerates the mistakes of the devotees as a Simha.
Yeah, why not? Do you see a contradiction? I don't. Where's the contradiction?
The contradiction, I'm just kind of confused. There, basically, the devotees, of course, they make mistakes. And then he's tolerating and he's also favorable.
Well, you have children. Do they make mistakes?
Of course.
No. Maybe the other one, but not this one. Is there a contradiction? Bhaktavatsala and... But then, so the nature of Krishna is, if there's a mistake, he corrects the mistake. Now, corrects a mistake doesn't mean, he ignores it, but that there's some correction, internal and or external correction. In his own way, it's that back to Braj Ballava's question, maybe not the way that we think it should be done because we're not Krishna, but he does it in the way that it's for our purification. So then from our side, the main requirement is stay fixed with bhakti. And then we're linked with Bhaktivatsala who make us clean, mistake-free. Because the mistake is turning away from the Supreme. So he'll make sure he takes away the things that take us away and gives us the things that bring us to him. Those two things. Hari. Could you say it again? This Madhvacharya speaker said that a member of that mat said that Madhvacharya's teaching is that the word simha means
Who can tolerate the mistakes of the devotees. That's the meaning of the simha. That's what it said.
there's probably other meanings too, but that's a nice one. Yes? We're on the other side of the pillar. Go ahead.
Hi, Krishna Guru Maharaj. I have a question on the topic of time.
Topic of time.
So I was in today's afternoon after the class, I was talking to a few families and I learned that many of the families are interested in receiving Srimad Bhagavatam.
Oh, really?
And yes, Guru Maharaj. And in our discussion, they expressed that they don't have time to read. So do you have any messages or message for them?
Here's a few. Prabhupada said, this is what Prabhupada says. Prabhupada said, even if it just sits on your shelf, and you see it sitting on your shelf, and you appreciate there's Krishna in the form of in the form of this wonderful literature, and you in your mind you're offering respects to the Srimad Bhagavatam in that way, there's spiritual benefit. Then another, I don't have time. Who doesn't waste time? So we all waste time. So this is just consider something that you do that's not an essential, duty of your life, but it's just filling in dead space because you need something to fill in dead space and make your mind a little numb or something like that. So, take some time. Start with something that's modest, just like the family today. A little bit every day. And if that becomes a commitment, a little bit every day, 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 it becomes part of your life. And if you do a little bit every day, not most days, every day, then it starts to grow. It starts to grow because it's so sweet. That's the second. Time wasting, just reduce something over there and put something in that space over here. A little bit every day. A third is reading in a reading group, because everyone has social needs. So make your social need fulfilled by doing something that's in relation to Srimad Bhagavatam. And you'll find you'll have direct experience that it's very sublime. Is having personal interactions with others, where Srimad Bhagavatam is at the center. It's very fulfilling. Those are three. There's more, but that's a nice start. And, a little bit of time is a good place to start. That's what I shared with this family, because they're like enthusiastic anyways. They'll probably do more than a little bit at a time. But a little bit at a time is a good place to start. Yeah.
Guru Maharaj, I have a short question, but one of the set of verses that I'm liking very much is in this 87th chapter of the 10th canto, where the Shruti, not exactly the verses, but in the purports, the for each verse, Srila Swami has his own prayer to Nrsingadev. As the Shrutis are glorifying the Lord, he has his own verse that's expressed.
Really?
Yeah, it's very beautiful verses. And I guess my question is...
It's in the BBT commentary?
This much.
Wow.
And my question is, are you aware if Srila Swami is a devotee of Nrsingadev?
I'm not aware, but I wouldn't be surprised. Does anybody else in the room have an answer to that question, one way or the other? Yes?
Harshad Prabhu, when he made a presentation on Nrsingadev, which you shared with us, he was referring to one of the verses that Sridhar Swami compiled about Nrsingadev.
But that doesn't give the answer to this question.
Which was?
The question is Sridhar Swami devotee? Is it Ishtadev?
Is he in Sringa Bhakta? That was the question.
Well,
Yes, you have an answer?
The same Haribhash Prabhu, when he was doing seminar in
Yeah.
Kishore Rupa Goswami is actually quoting that even though Sridhar Swami appears to be a Mayavadi, he was actually worshipping Nrsimhadev. So I remember hearing that. And I'll try to find that seminar.
Well, I just ask him. And for some verification. Makes sense, but we'll look, see if we get some pramana on that topic. Anything else? Okay. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was thinking about that first slide, I think it was, where it was said that how when Hiranyakasipu, when cruel people die, the sages rejoice, and it's comparing, with the death of a scorpion, how sages rejoice. I was thinking about that topic, and we see that in the Bhagavatam many times. At least one thing that comes up in my mind is when Kaliya, was on the death throes. Then his wives, the Naga Patnis, they were, happy because they thought, well, if he's killed by Krishna, then he's going to receive liberation. And so, and that point is kind of not understood by, people, and they find so much criticism with that aspect. I was wondering how to answer that, how to approach that.
Let me see if I not too many people read the Bhagavatam carefully like you, first of all. So I don't know how many people asked the question that you just asked. The question you just asked is, how do we understand the wives of the Kaliya serpent feeling really happy, or like, if Lord Krishna is going to kill him, this is good stuff because he's going to get liberation, and people object to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're asking?
Yes.
Have you come across that?
Yes, Maharaj. I was listening to a class by Radha Govinda Maharaj on this topic, and there were a lot of people in the audience who were, challenging that how can they rejoice when their husband is dying, and so
In the audience that he was speaking to.
yes, yes.
Well, that's really nice that they read the Bhagavatam so carefully. I mean, that's my pranams to those people who read carefully like that. So what was his answer?
Well, he said that they were not. I don't. It was more like that they were rejoicing because
The wives.
the wives. I don't. I can't.
You can't remember exactly what he
yeah,
said.
what he said.
So
Yes.
you want to hear what I have to say?
Yes.
Well, my understanding is pretty simple. They, although Kaliya was their husband, they were on a very elevated platform of devotion, a elevated platform of bhakti. They understood, for example, not about that being killed, but that the Lord's feet touching the hoods of our husband. How fortunate. You know, a wife seeing somebody dancing on her husband's head isn't going to like it so much. But they liked it so much because they were devotees. They understood what mercy is being given to him. How fortunate. So my response is, it's that simple. They're very, very special devotees. They're not ordinary people. They're very special devotees. And somehow they have serpent bodies. They're married to Kaliya, who is not nice. The body form is not nice, and his mentality was also not nice. But they were special. And perhaps that some commentary somewhere will say, Kali got the mercy that he got because they're so special. He got mercy from Krishna because they're special devotees. So that they're not ordinary people are thinking that way. Because their bhakti was very special.
I did another class class given by Radhanath, His Holiness Radhanath Swami. A devotee objected to the same thing.
Same thing.
Yes, Maharaj.
Well, glories to those devotees who read the Bhagavatam so carefully. And even if they got an objection, that's okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, we can count on Amrika, Kali, and Aruda to have some questions.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Couple of appreciations as you're talking about the time energy. I was just thinking 10 days, I don't know where this 4 to 5 hours came, like morning and evening hearing. Just so amazing. I mean, literally transporting us to a different place. And the other appreciation, I was thinking, I tried to read these prayers. I was actually trying to memorize these verses and trying to go through the verses, but some of the messages were like so heavy.
Chapter 9?
Yeah. So it was like just on the face. I think previous chapters, more like 6 and 7, about the material life and how we are so attached.
It's Prabhupada's favorites. Because it's necessary. We're not, just say it again, we're not attached to misery, we're attached to the sources of misery. And that's a problem. Like this young fellow saying, why bother with the Supreme and just get on with life? And his brother's saying, why is happiness important? Whew. Okay, go ahead.
So these discussions have actually helped a lot to take these messages, as you were saying, that they are actually important. And the way you were describing also made it so much easier, and all the question and answer discussions. I just would like to hear about Prahlad Maharaj. He's 5-year-old. Of course, he's a pure devotee and he has heard from Narada Muni. But the way he's speaking this
Very elevated.
doesn't seem like he's just repeating. It's coming from a deep place of realization.
Yeah. Well, even before he heard Narada say anything, Narada understood he's a special person. He had mercy before he even heard from Narada. And he's only 5 years old. That's how. Okay, looks like we're done. Anyone else? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Offending the online people.
Not for online. I had
You have, okay.
This is from the morning class, the 6th verse, Maharaj. There, Narada Muni says to, regarding the Prahlad, when Nrsimhadev touched his head.
Yes, yes.
So, I mean, he got ecstasy, but before that, he says he got completely cleansed, thoroughly cleansed, and he completely purified with all the material contaminations and desires. So, I mean,
What does that mean?
yeah.
That's what you want to know. Does that mean like you had a whole bunch of material contamination or desires and all of a sudden it just went away? Is that what it means? Is that what you want to know?
No, I mean, my understanding is that he's already in the.
Yeah,
pure
he's
God,
already
God,
perfect. So how you can get more perfect than perfect?
Why Narada Muni is saying like that?
Why is Narada Muni saying like that, giving him the description that he
Yes.
became freed from all material
Yes.
contamination? There are different ways to answer that, and that's why I'm pausing. It's not the assumption. We can say what it's not, then we can say what it is. It's not that he was like still dirty, and then he was made clean. So he wasn't still dirty. But there's something that happens when higher stages of bhakti are aroused. That's Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti. When Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti are aroused, then it heightens in different ways. It heightens the natural state of pure devotion. So let's just say it this way. Same thing. One can be in the stage of pure devotion before Prema Bhakti, before Bhava Bhakti. And when Bhava Bhakti awakens, it becomes amplified or accelerated or becomes more pure. So it's not like that. So it's not, the language is material contamination, but I don't take it exactly that way. I take it that it means the bhakti within him that was already pure just got spiked and amplified and increased significantly to the point where tears were coming from his eyes and his whole body was shaking and trembling, and he was experiencing bhava, ecstasy. That's how I take it, anyways. Is there anything else?
No.
You have one question. And this could be the last question.
Yes, my question was, I wonder what Narsimha Purana is like, whether it has more than, Bhagavatam is very explicitly telling the story of Prahlad from his life in his womb onwards. I was wondering about Narsimha Purana.
I'm only a little bit familiar with Nrsimha Purana. And the little bit that I'm familiar with is quoted by our acharyas. And our acharyas say that in Nrsimha Purana, there's a different day of Brahma that's described in the Shringa Purana. It's in Bhakti Sandarbha where Jiva Goswami is quoting. Prahlad asks Lord Nrsingadev, how did I become like this? How did I become so devoted to you? You familiar with this? Prahlad asked Lord Nrsingadev, and he said, in your previous life, you were a Brahmana. If I remember correctly, even the name is given of the name of the Brahmana, something, something. And you had become distracted and, taken away from your Brahminical practices, and you had made companionship with a prostitute. You were cohabiting with a prostitute. And on one particular day, the Nrsinga Chaturdasi, you and this lady had a quarrel. You became very upset. And on the Nrsinga Chaturdasi, you observed a full fast. You fasted until the next morning. And because of that, observing Nrsinga Chaturdasi in this way, now you're my devotee. It's okay, there's the solution. Just cohabit with the prostitute, observe a full fast under Nrsinga Chaturdasi, and become Prahlad. That's a good program. But it's, the comment in Bhakti Sandarbha, he says, this is an explanation of a different Prahlad that's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. The Prahlad that's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam is said as coming in Canto 7, Chapter 10, Chapter 10 of Canto 7. He was sent from Vaikuntha. So he was already eligible and already eligible. And then there was Narada. Okay? But I haven't read Nrsinga Purana. I just know that little bit from Bhakti Sandarbha. That's our last question. Thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.